Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I am in northern Wisconsin, a little weekend retreat with the family. We rented a cabin on a little lake, not super little, but for most people's standards, it's little. I think it's about 800 acres. Complete bowl, circle-shaped lake. There's a couple of 20-foot holes, but generally speaking, it's just a big, shallow flat, anywhere from, I'm gonna say most of the lake is like 6 to 8 foot of water. And I don't really know anything about it. I know there's smallmouth, I know there's largemouth, you know, your general northern Wisconsin fishing. We're gonna try to break it down quick. We got in yesterday, put the boat in, didn't fish at all. So we're gonna see if I can find a few fish to maybe get the boys out later to catch a few. We've got a couple of days here, and I just idled out to a spot. The seats are completely dew covered, which is why I'm kneeling on my seat, because I don't want to get a wet butt. Beautiful little lake, pretty standard. I think one thing I want to do too is I got these new bulk gulp alive. It's the SR crawler, little 4-inch bait. It's kind of got a cylinder type head and then a flat tail. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm going to put this on the hover rig. I had a viewer recommend that I give it a try. They said it works great. So I'm gonna try it. Maybe not the best idea on a new lake. Maybe I should be throwing, you know, a bait that I have complete confidence in, but I really like gulp products. I use a bunch of them, so we're gonna try it. I've got probably an hour and 15 minutes. It's 5:54. Kids, Hank will not be happy if I'm out here when he wakes up. So I'm probably gonna try to be back right at about 7 o'clock. So we got about an hour and 10 minutes. Let's see what we can catch. Opening up a new gulp container. You can see it comes sealed. So we're just gonna puncture a hole in there with my finger. Ooh, get a good whiff of gulp. As you can see, so this is, I think this bait will actually work really well on the hover rig. I've got, like I said, I had an individual tell me I had to give it a try. You can see from a profile standpoint, it's got the standard kind of worm, like plastic worm profile, but then a tapered tail, which I really think will work just fine on this guy. I'm going to go light spot down, start a 1/4 inch above the head, make sure it's centered. And generally with the 3/64 ounce, the smaller sizes, you just take the worm up to the bottom of the lead, poke it through, slide that up, and you can see I've taken the weed guard off. That rigged up really well. Probably should have gone a little further. Perfect. All right, so there it is. It looks pretty solid to me. A little two-tone natural looking color. Has a lot of spiraling motion. I don't know that I necessarily like that, but the one thing a lot of people don't realize with the hover rig is if you put a little tension on the bait and let it tight line, that bait just glides. The spiraling motion's gone. Yeah, this thing really glides well with a little tension. So let's see what we can find. So a couple of things just scanning around. There is a lot of bait fish activity. I can see a lot of like little pods. Probably can't pick it up on the camera. A lot of pods. I'm also just on this flat. I've got my active target going. I've got my side imaging going. And there's not much weed at all. I mean, it is straight sand. Now, I can't say I necessarily idled all over the place. What I basically did is I looked at the map. I said, okay, there's a deeper hole. You know, there's, like I said, there's 3 deeper holes in this lake that hit like upper teens to 20 foot. So I looked for any structure around it, but there's literally no points, no nothing. The contour lines, at least on my mapping, shows that it's just a bowl. And I haven't seen a weed since I left the dock. I mean, we had The dock is in straight sand. We've got straight sand out here. Tons of bait fish. I'm in 6 feet of water. But ideally in a perfect world, what I would do is just start graphing. But I'd probably spend a couple hours. And in this case, I don't want to do that. I'm really just trying to, find some fish. Now, if I don't see anything here soon, I got the trolling motor on high. I'll probably just pick up and move to a different part of the lake. But right now, I mean, it is a big, solid flat. I mean, you can see I'm in the middle of the lake, and I've got, I'm in 6 foot of water, not a stitch of weed. We got here last night, so we never saw like any pleasure boaters or anything really going on. I guarantee you there's fish in here, and I guarantee you there's a sweet spot. So I'm going to work my way. I'm basically working my way right up to a deep hole, which I'm sure is probably going to be one of the better areas just based on what I've seen. The only thing with that is, again, the deep holes don't have like steep contour lines. They just slowly taper into the hole. And, we've only been out for 10 minutes at this point, so I'm not that concerned about it. But it's always fun to break down some of these lakes. And to make a video, I may have to jump on the big motor and actually find something. We'll see what we can do. All right, guys, so I decided to graph after about 15 minutes, and I found some clumps of grass. That's a grass ball. You can see another one coming in up here. Real clean edges. This is probably hard for you guys to see. Really clean edges, but it's definitely got some grass. First grass I've seen. With a little deeper water, 8-10 foot of water. We're gonna give this a try. If they're down in that grass, you probably can't necessarily see them. There's really thick clumps of grass. I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't caught any yet. I mean, I see some eelgrass or sandgrass floating on the surface, but there's definitely some thicker clumps. To me, on the graph, it looks like milfoil, just by how thick they are. But they're not all the way up to the surface, and I haven't gotten right over one to see one yet. I can see the off-coloredness, but that's about it. There's one. Ooh, nice smallmouth. Came out of that grass clump. That's a nice one. Oh yeah. Pretty fish. Okay, mister. My gulp bait's gone. That's a 3-pounder. Beautiful. Clear water. He's got that sandy color. I swear, when you run into these really clear sand bodies of water, the smallmouth just turn the color of the sand. That's a nice fish, maybe 3 1/4. Good first fish. Thank you. On the hover, 3/64 ounce hover with a crawler, gulp crawler. All right, well, we've been doing this about, I don't know, 8-9 minutes. Not long. That feels better. Oh, wow. Is that largemouth? Oh, big brownie. That's a good one. There goes my... Look at that one, guys. The old hover rig. My gulp crawler. We might be figuring something out. This is the second one that have basically come off a patch of bait fish. Come here. Oh yeah. That's a good one. That fish has got to be 4 pounds. Oh, they're beautiful here. They got that grayish. I love these guys. See you, buddy. Okay, the lake's got some good smallmouth, it looks like. So, you know, one thing I want to point out here, guys. I can't tell you how often it kind of drives me nuts when I do a video talking about like bait fish, and I get a lot of people responding back that live in the North Country, and the response is, well, we don't have shad. And we don't. You're right. Most shad, and you know, I'm gonna say, I don't know, if you live in my part of the world, the upper Midwest, you get up to about northern Illinois, that's where they end. You get some in some of the rivers, but most of the lakes don't have anything. But they've got all kinds of bait fish. I don't know if you guys can see that. There is just piles upon piles. Every little speck you see on the surface are little bait balls. I'm actually out in the middle of nowhere right now, just scanning around, looking for bait. We've got a random clump of weeds. That's the second fish now. The other pile, the first fish I caught had a nice clump of weeds that had a ball of bait next to it. And that fish came out of that. Right now, I'm just literally out on this flat, scanning around looking for grass, because I know these individual grass clumps, which are very few out here, are they're the place where the fish are gonna sit and wait for any of these little bait balls to come by. I mean, if I didn't know better right now, looking at the surface, I'd say I'm down on Table Rock Lake in some cove that is just littered with shad. That's how many bait piles, little pods of bait I'm seeing out here. So don't think just because you don't have shad that your bait doesn't come into play. Every lake pretty much has some sort of minnow, shiner, you know, alewife, whatever it is, there's gonna be a form of bait fish. And sometimes that bait fish might actually be bluegill and perch. You know, they're not a bait fish, they're a panfish at that point. But the point that I'm trying to make is, don't ever underestimate. I mean, I was not expecting to come out here and see these piles of bait, but there obviously is a phenomenal bait fish population, hence why the 2 smallmouth I've caught are 2 that I would love to weigh in pretty much any tournament I ever fish. So just, you know, you just can't overestimate the importance of the forage species, even if you don't have shad. It's one reason when I do a lot of videos too, people are like, well, why should I use white ever if we don't have shad in the lake? Well, if you don't have shad, you've got something. And white is always going to be a good color. Even if you've got a ton of bluegill and perch, I mean, a lot of times they're not just super brilliant green colors. A lot of times they're a worn out greenish hue, you know, that almost looks silvery in the water. All right, we've got about 12 more minutes of fishing time, so we're gonna see if we can catch one more. But I feel pretty good about dialing this in. I actually moved a little bit out. A lot of the bait fish are actually sitting out more in the deeper water in that, what are we in? We're in 9-10, well actually, yeah, 9-10 foot of water, which is the deepest water I've been in. I've gone out over the deep hole And the bait fish, there were some scattered, but I think right now with it being early in the morning, they're actually up on the lip. My guess is as the sun gets higher, they're gonna settle back into that hole, which is where I would follow them to. But just to show you, see all the bait? This is all one giant bait pod. And that's all, like, I mean, I'm not looking for fish, I'm looking for bait. Bait, or I'm looking for piles of grass, which is few and far between. The interesting thing is I've only seen like 1 or 2 fish bust. So they're not necessarily coming up and chasing them to the surface. And that just could be because the amount of bait fish, they don't need to. But I would expect to see a little bit more surface activity. But last night was one of the coolest nights we've had in a long time too. So who knows? Either way, we're putting it together. Oh, there's one. Is that a big largemouth, I think? Oh, big largemouth. Look at that one. Came right out of that big weed pile. Can you see that, guys? He's got me down. This is a big tank largemouth. He's got me in that pile of milfoil. I'll tell you this, one thing you do not horse that fish out of the milfoil on light line. He's just balled up. He's still on there. We'll get him out. That was a big one. Generally, you want them to pull themselves out. They'll seesaw back and forth, but if you pull too hard, the problem is I've got a light wire hook on. There's a big bass right there cruising around. There's a big bass, if you can see that, just cruising around. This is a good clump of grass right here. Do you see? There is a smallmouth, a giant smallmouth looking at that bait. Like investigating what is going on. Should we go down with the net? I could pull a net out. This fish has got to be so balled up. I do not recommend this in a tournament, but I don't think I can even reach this. The problem with doing this is you don't know how deep this fish is. Ooh. I can't even get down to it. That's too deep still. Too deep still. There he is. Look at that. Oh, God. Oh, come here. If we lose you now. All right. Look at that Tankosaurus. Oh, hover rig with the old Berkeley crawler, gulp crawler. Look at that one, guys. We picked a good lake. Boy, that fish should be, I mean, that's a solid 4 3/4 probably. But it's like a post spawner. I feel like, God, that's a nice fish. That's one of the biggest northern largemouth I caught in a while. And we got you. Oh, all right. Well, we got milfoil clumps. Like I said, you don't generally want to force them. That worked out just fine. Our hover rig hook is fine. Good old milfoil. That's where you catch the big ones if you got it. And we may have found a new lake with some milfoil if we can find some patches like that we can punch. Okay. Okay. And there was that giant smallmouth that was roaming around. I hope we got that on camera. That would be awesome. That smallmouth would come around, he'd come around, and he was just like swimming, he was like looking right at that largemouth in that hole. Like, that's crazy. Okay, well, we got a clump of weeds with a pile of bait fish around it. Just one little, this is a clump the size of my boat. All right, everyone, we are wrapping this up. I got to get back to the house. It's 7:15. Fished a few minutes longer than I said. I got to get back. Hank will probably want to come out. Maybe we'll come back out. Taking you off. That's a pretty successful little over hour of fishing. We caught 2 big smallmouth, a big largemouth, 3/64 ounce hover rig with the Berkeley Gulp Alive SA crawler. I really like how they perform. It looks a lot like a leech in the water. I will say the gulp material is a little softer, so you get, you know, a fish or 2 out of each one, it seems like. But I'm excited. We broke this down pretty easily, I think. Now, I'm not saying, you know, that's the only way to catch fish out here, but what I do think is I can come out, I can graph around these big flats, look for these isolated clumps. If we've got bait fish around, that's going to be even better. But I feel like I can come out in a couple hours, cover a bunch of ground, mark a bunch of these isolated clumps the size of my boat. I can come back out with the kids and say, throw there. Like, that's what we're going to do. Should be pretty straightforward. I'm very, very happy with this. I'm excited to see the rest of the potential of the lake. I mean, did we get lucky and catch 3 quality fish? Or is the quality of the lake just a good lake? You know, to catch 3 fish that are 3 to, you know, 4.5, 4 3/4 pounds is pretty impressive. Don't know anything about the lake. Really haven't heard anything about it. I did a quick look on the DNR website as to what fish are in this lake, and which is basically what every lake in Wisconsin has. Anyways, thanks for watching. I got to go back, get the family. I'm hoping the boys aren't up yet because they'll be mad if they know I'm out here. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all the support. I'll put a link to all the tackle and everything if you want to check that stuff out on Tackle Warehouse. I'm out of here. See you. Bye.